as the lights go down and the screen comes up, all you see is a thick haze. The lens punches through and there's little wisp of fog that break across the screen. I see silhouettes start to approach, and I realize it's an old gate. It's been broken down and left open for months, maybe years. One of the hinges is rusted off, and there are weeds that are growing up through the timber and the wire. As the camera brushes on through the opening, one by one, I start to see them appear, just shadowy figures at first. And right as the first one starts to pass, I realize it's a tombstone, followed by another, and then another. And then that soundtrack starts to kick in. I stopped eating my bucket of extra buttered popcorn, and my Diet Coke is just shaking in my hand because they cancel each other out, and I'm fixed on the screen. As the last tombstone we now cross, a small opening, a little up breeze from the lake below has blown some of the remnants of the fog away, and for the first time I see a silhouette sitting on the edge of the cliff, his back toward us, with the last remnant of late afternoon sun starting to break behind high hills. The camera pans to the right, and for the first time we lay eyes on him. His hair is wild, his beard is matted, his eyes are more animalistic than human, and in his right hand he's jostling with something. I notice it's a large stone, rugged, bumpy, cracked on one side, a jagged edge on the other, and his hand just grips it. I see the veins in his forearms and the bicep muscles bulge as he takes it, puts it up to his chest and presses and starts to drag. Skin starts to split and open behind it. Blood starts running down. And for the first time on his torso and on his other arm, I realize it's scar after scar. I don't know how long he's been carving into himself, but somewhere in the middle of his chest, he wants to go deeper as if to end it all, but the rib cage won't let him. Somewhere the pain has enough. The hand opens, a bloody rock tumbles down the cliff. And as he watches it, for the first time, he notices them. Their small wooden craft has landed on the beach, his beach. And like a flash, he's up and he starts to run. From behind, we follow, and that's when I realize there's not a stitch of clothing on this man. One small chain, more of an anklet that's hanging off, dragging behind. He doesn't look for a path or a clearing. He goes right through the cactus and right through the thickets and thistles, and he runs, flailing his arms. It's the second lens down below that picks up those. The first couple guys jumped off in the knee-deep water. They used the propulsion of the oars to pull the large wooden ship up on the sand so the other ones could get out without getting wet. One by one, the men climb over, unload a few bags, and stand there in the sand. And that's when the two forces collide. He's running, flailing, screaming, throws himself into the sand, skids on his knees with arms up. "What do you want from me?" And there's a chill that goes up my spine. My wife's like, "Why do you bring me to these?" I'm all, "Just watch." She's like, "I thought you said this was a love story." I'm all, "It is. I love this story." There's one standing on the beach, undaunted, unflinching, unparalleled, uncompromised in power, that simply looks at the man and says, "What is your name?" And somewhere from within the voice comes, but it's not human. "My name is Legion, because we are many." Snap. It's a quick discourse. I can't explain what happens next. He screams not to be tortured. The man standing grabs the demons, yet not physically, just by word, by command, throws them into a herd of pigs that runs off the cliff into the lake. Young teenagers watching the pigs are beside themselves. They run back into town where all the townspeople are by the gate where the business in the marketplace happens. And out of breath, they come up, sweat dripping from that. "We lost the pig." And they're like, "Calm down. We lost the pigs." "What do you mean you lost the pig? How many pigs did you lose?" "We lost all of them." "What do you mean you lost all of them?" 2,000. And the townspeople hear that a livelihood has just jumped off a cliff. They run out. They see the man, once naked, chained, and carving into himself, who lived in the tombs, now clothed and in his right mind. They took one look at the Bay of Pigs, and they look at this one standing there, unflinching, uncompromised, unparalleled in power, and say, "We don't know what you're selling, but we're not buying it. You can get out." And Jesus says, oh yeah? And he rolls up his sleeves and he grabs the oars and he rows away. It's only the beginning of a story. See, from there, he's going to hit the other side of the beach, and there's another crowd that covers. That synagogue ruler comes running. His name is Jairus. He goes, please, it's my daughter. She's sick. She's had a fever for days. She hasn't kept on any food. She's about to die. I don't even know it's been home. It's been hours. I've been looking for her. I hear you the one. Can you go? And the crowd that was there all trying to see this Jesus touches Jesus. Now quiet. One of their church leaders has a 12-year-old girl, and she's about to die. Let's go. Wow, we're going to get to see a miracle. And they start walking. And as everyone starts going around, everyone's trying to touch him, shake his hand, feel him, see if he's got webbed feet, because rumor is he can walk on water. And as everyone's trying to get a good picture of this guy, he stops in the crowd and says, hey, who just touched me? And the disciples go, what? There's 14 people touching you right now. What do you mean, who touched me? Hey, everyone who touched Jesus as we left the beach, raise your hand. There you go, about 150. Can we go? She's 12. And he goes, who just touched me? And what the crowd doesn't know, what the disciples doesn't know, what only he knows and what others know, is that there was a third lens that picked her up. She knew exactly where the synagogue ruler lived. She ran ahead of the crowd. She waited for him to pass, and seeing an opening, she reached out and just touched his cloak, because she thought in her mind, if I just touch him, I could be healed. And one verse sums it up. She has been subject to bleeding for 12 years. She has spent all that she has had on the care of a great meal of many doctors. But instead of getting better, she's grown even worse. She's been on a constant flow of blood, a menstrual cycle that has never stopped for 12 years. She has spent all that she had. Oh my God. In first century medicine, can you even imagine the horror, the voodoo, the witch doctory that's been performed on this woman in such a private location? She's been subject to medical rape, if you will, over and over. And no wonder the bleeding continues. And she's heard the stories. There's one who can feed 5,000 out of a G.I. Joe lunchbox, who walks on waters, who spits loogies in the mud, puts it on blind guys' eyes, and even they can see. There's guys downtown wearing tank tops, even though it's 42 degrees. But they used to have leprosy where their skin was falling off, and now they can't get enough of showing off new skin, because they met this Jesus who reached out and touched the oozing pus and sores, and molecules rearranged themselves. And she thought, maybe if I just touch him. And she touched, and immediately she knew she was clean. She walked away, and he spun around and said, who just touched me? And the crowd gets quiet. All eyes are looking on him, except one pair, who's turned and trying to slip away. You see, according to their old ancient laws in Leviticus, I believe it's chapter 18, if you have a flow of blood or condition of blood, you're considered unclean for a period of 7 days. Whatever you touch is unclean for a period of at least 24 hours. Anyone that touches you is unclean. You see, for 12 years, this woman has been socially, mentally, spiritually, physically, relationally untouchable. Why does the Bible have stupid rules like that in the beginning? Dumb rules. Yeah, I agree. Dumb. Because they were written 3,400 years before we understood something called microbiology and germs. Because as nations and civilizations were being wiped out by plagues and disease and issues of blood, the Jewish population continued to increase in number because they had really dumb laws written by the creator of germs before science 3,000 years would catch up with his wisdom and understand germs. And unfortunately, she's living under those laws. And she's just been called out. She has touched him. It means he is now unclean. He cannot go into the pastor's house. He cannot touch a 12-year-old girl who's sick. She's blown the parade, and she knows it. And she falls in the dirt trembling with fear. And she has to tell the whole truth in front of the town. She has to tell them what's happened in 12 years, what she has spent in 12 years, what's been done to her over 12 years, and why the bleeding continues. And on this day, she touched the most popular man in the area. Could you imagine? Could you imagine the shock and horror that spread through the crowd? The name she's being called? How could she? What did she think? She didn't even ask. She had no permission. Just a fucking... And in that moment, he looked down at her and he goes, daughter. Out of everything she was being called that day, and out of everything she expected to hear from him, that was not one of the words. But if he could pick any word to sum up everything she needed at that moment, he nailed it. Daughter. I got 2 of those. I was late getting here tonight just because there was a back to school second semester at Mission Vista High School, and my oldest daughter is a freshman. So I have to go and sit through classes again with teachers telling me about curriculum. I'm not in a good mood right now, folks. I didn't realize it was tonight. I didn't realize it was right before. I didn't realize it got done at 7:30, and my teacher comes late, so 7:40. I didn't realize I had to run in the back door and put this on. Why do I do it? Because I have daughter. She didn't even show up for it. But I'm dad. And I understand it meant something to her that I would know her parents and her classroom and her world. So I'll sit there in an integrated math class. I know that's close to hell. You can do anything you want about me. You can call me any name you want. You can think anything you want of me. I really don't care. I'm 46 years old. I'm 42 pounds overweight, approximately. I'm slightly balding. I got more gray coming across in my beard. I'm not a very intellectual or spiritual guy, so throw it at me. You ain't going to mess with me. You want to find out what's still left in this West Texas guy or what's loaded in his closet, you go after daughter. And I guarantee you, that's a whole different scenario. Do you see what he did in that day, in that crowd? No matter who she is and what she's done and where she came from, he just told everyone, this one's my girl. You mess with her, you mess with me. And then he said, you go in peace, shalom. The conflict that you've had in your life, how you didn't like yourself and your body and your issues, he goes, now you have peace, you have shalom. Well, some men come from the other side and they interrupt the religion and they said, hey, don't bother the teacher anymore. Your little girl just died. And I completely forgot they were on their way to a 12-year-old's girl house. And Jesus wheeled around and he grabbed the father and he goes, look, you can listen to your friends or you can just believe and take me home. And the guy goes, well, let's go. And they take Jesus to the house and there's screaming going on and crying and all the commotion. And Jesus kicks everyone out of the house. And dad walks through the door and for the first time, mom leaves a bedside that she probably hasn't left in days. And she stands up and she buries her head into her husband's chest and he grabs her by the back of the neck around the waist. And for the first time, dad has to see his 12-year-old girl and the body's not breathing. And she's lost so much weight in the last few weeks. And she couldn't afford to lose any of it. And it's beside this embrace, Jesus slips. A voice that can cast out 2,000 demons. A presence that if you touch him, you can be healed. Now shows this incredible compassion as he kneels beside the bed. Touches the cold hand of the little girl. And says, Talitha koum. In Aramaic, little girl, it's time to get up. And breath comes back into her body and she sits up. And mom and dad have to be filled with a shock, elation, joy, disbelief, horror, astonishment. We don't have words in the human language. They're staring at a little girl that was dead is now sitting up and blinking, staring at mom and dad. And in that silence, Jesus breaks it and says, don't tell anyone that she was dead. Tell everyone she had just fallen into a deep sleep. I brought her out of that. She was in a coma. She got better. Oh, and by the way, fix her some macaroni and cheese. She's hungry. It's in chapter 5. Macaroni and cheese in parentheses. Fix her something to eat. She's hungry. And from the tombstones and the naked man who carved himself, to a woman who had been bleeding for 12 years, to a 12-year-old girl, it's one chapter, it's one day, it's just one portion of the life of Jesus. It's Mark chapter 5. Don't turn there, because that's what I was going to talk about tonight. We decided not to, thanks to Sarah Peters and Aaron Dugan. Because you've got this theme going right now, quality crafted. I just wanted to take a day, maybe it was just more of an afternoon in the life of Jesus, and show you that the way this Jesus deals with people then is the way he deals with us now. He's the same God. He knows for one guy, you need to be clothed and in your right mind. You need to have some dignity back about yourself, buddy, and you need to get your thinking straight because your thinking's been way off. And he restores the man. He hits the other shore, and it's a bleeding woman, and she needs to know her value. She needs to know her worth, and she needs to have some peace in her life because she's got so much conflict about herself. And he restores everything in a word and in a phrase. And then he walks into the house and he heals a 12-year-old girl. And as he's leaving, he thinks about it. I can't end there. I'm like, well, why don't you pick her up and run outside? Why don't you show everyone that knew she was dead that you can raise people from the dead? You're just in chapter 5. This is a great publicity stunt. If you want to tell people you're the Son of God, show them you can raise little girls from the dead. That's a good one. And before he leaves, it hits the mind of Christ to say, by the way, don't say this outside. Why? Maybe he cares more about her prom night 5 years from now than his reputation today. Remember 12? Remember middle school? You thought cooties were bad? Who plays with a dead girl at recess? Think about it. If word gets out, she's done. She's the zombie girl. She'll never outlive this. 40 years from now, she'll be 52. She'll be at the market. She'll be reaching for some fruit. And another little girl inadvertently runs up to the apple stand. And her mom will jerk her back by the collar. And she will scold her sternly. That's the dead woman. I never want to see you close to her again. Well, she was dead. And he gave her life. But it won't be much of one. Not in the first century. Not in that town. And he cared more about her reputation than his. You let everyone know she had fallen into a deep sleep. We brought her out of it. She needs to dance her senior year. She needs to walk down the aisle and have a ring put on her finger. I gave her life so she can live it, not to hide behind blocked doors. Are you kidding me? Quality crafted. One by one by one. This God deals with each one of them differently. But they had to step out. They had to run to him screaming and kicking, or they had to reach out quietly, or they had to stand in the crowd and say, do I take him home or not? And he knows what each one of them, because he knows what each one of you need. That was going to be my message. I was going to break it down. We did that in 16 minutes. Take off my Jordan sweatshirt, by the way, to show my Jordan shirt, by the way. Note to self, Thursday, go home, change clothes, put on Jordan gear. You got to speak of the Jordan. Thank you very much. With that God in mind, I want to give you 4 things that I wish I knew at your age, that I now know at mine, that maybe would have changed something about a quality crafted God. As you were here the last couple of weeks of Jeff going through Psalms 139, Ephesians 4, telling you how you were made, that God knows you and what you need. He said dignity restored is to be reclothed, is to be in your right mind. It is to understand your value as son and daughter. It is to have peace in your life where there's so much conflict that's going on in your life. Is it a reputation issue for you? Let me give you a couple things that no one ever dripped into me when I was your age. Here goes. Number 1. I wish someone would have told me that God knows where my life needs to go and how to get there. God knows where my life needs to go and how to get there. No, hear me. This is the part I didn't get. Your life, not God's plan for your life. He knows where your life needs to go. What's best for you? I never had someone tell me, Chris, this is going to be best for you. I knew it was best for God. I got to come to church. I got to start praying. I got to give up on everything I'm doing. That's a lot of fun. Maybe I got to move to Papua New Guinea, live in a hut, hang out with a bunch of naked people, eat grubs, and wear a banana leaf. Man, I don't know if I can be a Christian. That was my view, dude. You can live a fun life, or you can live a right life that's going to suck, but it's a Christian life. No one ever broke down and told me, no. It's quality crafted. God made you for a specific reason, with specific purpose, with specific strengths, with specific weaknesses, because he wants you to play a role that only you can play the way you're wired. And when you start playing a role that only you can play, you're going to think it's the coolest thing ever. I wish someone would have told me, hey, Chris, if you really want to give your heart and life and follow God, you get to tell stories and make people laugh for the rest of your life. Shut the up. No, seriously, you can do that. I mean, but that part might have to be cleaned up, but dude, that's it. Shut up. No, you do. Someone said, Chris, you're going to be a pastor. Peace. Chris, you're going to have to work in a church. Hate church, hate pastors. Don't know which order they come in, but they're 1 and 2. No, dude, you can go barefoot, shorts, jeans, tell stories. Think that the Bible's living, just bring it out, and you're going to see lives change. Not because of you, because you just use the gifts the way the giver made you to do it. Are you kidding me? Can you make a living telling stories? Cha-ching. I can even live in Oceanside. That's right, Oceanside. I live beside the ocean. I mean, you can't see it anywhere close to my house, but that's the name of the city. And no one told me that. No one said, Chris, following this God unlocks the real you. You want the life God has for you, just as much as he wants you to have it. I promise you. When you can unlock you, quirky little you, how you think, what you look, how you put together, how you do things, how you process. Man, that's awesome. I love working at a church that's large enough to see thousands of people filling spots. And I go, man, you're jacked up. You're a jacked up person. There's no one else I know that can do what you do. That's awesome. That's awesome. Andrew Pulfer. Man, jackets on, all sweaty, hair, singing songs that he wrote. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I knew that guy as a freshman in college. He ain't that cool. Jeff Moores, shut up. Largest college group in San Diego County being led by a pothead. Who would have thunk it? Who would have thunk it? Man, who that guy was at 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19? Oh. Jeff, what do you do now? And he's like, man, I surf, I skate, I hang out with the whole generation that loves doing that, I just live life. I'm like, what? He's like, I know. And I'm like, I know. Shh, they pay us. Stupid. To see North Coast teachers in the classroom that get up and there's just these 32 little third graders that they hold spellbound. And they teach. And in the midst of teaching, they dripped in character qualities and love and concern. And they walk along families in such a way that doors are open to them to share truth. And it blows me away. Blows me away. To see the drywallers and the carpenters and the painters and the truck drivers, the psychologists and the doctors. Got my hair cut today. Sat down in the barber chair. Guy got out and went snip, snip. He always goes snip, snip before he cuts. I don't know if that's just an intimidation thing. Just saying, you got a cape on, you can't really reach me. I got something sharp. Shut up. And he goes snip, snip. And I'm like, He's all, did I ever tell you how my wife prays? And I'm like, For the next 10 minutes, man, with 2 other people cutting hair next to her, 3 guys waiting, he tells this big story about how his wife got cancer 8 years ago and how she prays. I noticed the chair opened up next to us and the guys waiting didn't move because they were so looking at the floor or looking at magazines and they hadn't turned a page in 10 minutes. They were just listening to this conversation. This guy knows it. This guy knows that he's a storyteller and his job is to hold a sharp object to your throat so you can't move. And he tells you how his wife prays. No one ever told me this God's plan for you is best for you. You just don't know it yet. And he knows how to get there. Number 2, using another story, no one told me that this God knows exactly what's broken and how to fix it, but doesn't that make sense? If he's the creator and he's the sustainer, doesn't he know what's broken and know how to fix it? That's why when that bleeding woman touched him, he said, you're my daughter and you go in peace. And then his last words are, it is your faith that has healed you, not touching my cloak. You won't be able to find my cloak anymore. It was your faith. Oh, that you can have any day, any time, any place you are. He says, that's the calling card. You have a God that knows what's broken and knows how to fix it in your life. I'm not even going to ask you to raise your hand. How many of you have something broken in your life? Because you'd all raise your hand. And those of you that didn't, then you struggle with lying and performance issues. So we're all there. We all come from a dysfunctional family. You just got to decide what type of dysfunction it was. We've all got stuff in our life of issues of some brokenness. He's the creator, the sustainer. He knit you together in your mother's womb. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. Or as Jeff, I'm sure, read in Ephesians, you are God's workmanship. You know that word workmanship in the Greek is poema? What word do we get from poema? That's right, poem. Stepped on something sharp, that's why you don't go barefoot. Throw that, have the drummer hit that next week. Poem, that's right. ADD for a moment, I'm back. You are God's poem. You are his tangible manifestation of his feeling and his love. Isn't that cool? It's John chapter 4. I love it. You can turn there. We're going to spend time on this one. Then I got two more. What do I got? 25, 50 minus 42. So we got 3.5 hours. John chapter 4. John chapter 4 verse. I got to push that down a little bit. My Bible got smaller in the last few years. Verse 4. John chapter 4. It's in the back of the Bible. If you like flipping around, look for the guys' names. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. They're all pretty big books. If you hit Acts, A-C-T-S, don't look for the X. You've gone too far. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. John chapter 4, verse 4. Love this story. One of my favorite ones. Are you there? Who got a Bible? Got an app. Turn it on. Slide your finger. John, hit 4. It's easy to find on the app. It's free. It's the Bible. They can't charge. They'll go to hell. Here we go. John chapter 4, verse 4. That's not a verse. It's just a thought I had. Probably shouldn't have said it, but welcome to Chris's life. John 4:4, talking about Jesus. Now he had to go through Samaria. If you love using your Bible as a text, I hope you do circle, highlight, underline, had to go. Jesus had to go through Samaria. Any time in the Bible you see that Jesus had to do something, stop and pay attention. Because Jesus don't be had to do anything. I know that's bad English, but that's really good theology. Jesus don't be had to do nothing. He's Jesus. He's the Son of God. He don't have to do nothing. So when it says Jesus had to go, this is one of the strongest assertions of his will. In his mind, he's all, there's something I have to do today. I'm going through Samaria. You're like, this is going to be big. It's no big, watch. So he came, where's that water? Hold on. Burned a calorie already. Got to get some liquid back. I dehydrate in about 6 minutes. Now he had to go through Samaria. So he came to a town in Samaria called Sychar, near the plot of ground that Jacob had given to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, tired as he was from the journey, sat down to the well, and it was about the 6th hour. Jewish day starts at 6 a.m., so 6 hour means it's at noon. When a Samaritan woman came to draw water, Jesus said to her, will you give me a drink? His disciples had gone into town to buy food. Now the Samaritan woman said to him, you are a Jew, and I'm a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for a drink? Because the Jews do not associate with Samaritans. The race card is played heavily on this chapter. She's an S word. She knows it. He knows it. He's a Jewish man, not just a Jewish man, but a Jewish rabbi. A rabbi even doesn't talk to a Jewish woman in public one-on-one, let alone a Jewish rabbi talking to someone that's an S word. She's one of the half-breed mogul Samaritan type woman. Mogul, what's it called? No, I don't care. It's not in the story. And here it goes. I don't even know why I went there. The Samaritan woman said to him, we just read that part, verse 10, Jesus answered, if you knew the gift of God and who it was that asked you for a drink, you would have asked him. He would have given you living water. Sir, the woman said, you've got nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Where can you get this living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us the well and drank from it himself, as did also his sons and his flocks and his herds? And Jesus answered, everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again. But whoever drinks the water I give him will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give him will become in him a spring of water welling up to eternal life. The woman said to him, sir, Give me this water so that I won't get thirsty and have to keep coming here to draw water. And the story set. They had to cross the border. They had to go to the other side of the tracks. And now we know why Jesus had to do something. He wants to meet her at noon. Women get water in the morning. Women get water in the evening. I'm not trying to be sexist. I'm just saying how it worked then and in a lot of countries today. We were in Haiti over this Christmas break. You drive early in the mornings. There's few pumps and there's few posts in towns where clear water comes out. And early in the morning, before the sun comes up, you're going to see lines of people on both sides of that little pipe coming out of flowing water that will go for several blocks long. And this person will fill their water, and then this person, and this person, and this person. And it happens all morning long. They get enough water for the day. Later that night, you'll see a line form again. They'll come back because they've used the water during the day, and they'll get enough water that their family needs for the night. But you don't go in the heat of the day. Number one, you needed water hours earlier. And number two, it's hot in the Middle East to carry a bunch of water. She's at the well at the wrong time. Why? She's the wrong kind of woman. And we're about to find out. And this is what Jesus had to do. Can you give me a drink? You're a Jew. I'm a Samaritan. You shouldn't be talking to me. Yeah, but if you knew who I was, you'd ask me for a drink. What do you mean ask you for it? You got nothing to get water with? You got nothing to go down in the well and get it with? He goes, lady, I can give you living water and you'll never thirst again. Sign me up. Nope. Jesus said to her, go call your husband and come back. Well, I don't have a husband, she replied. And Jesus said to her, you're right when you say that you don't have a husband. The fact is you have had 5 husbands and the man you currently have is not your husband. So what you have just said is quite true. Oh, snap. Can I have this living water? Sure. Why don't you go get your husband? We'll talk about it. I'm not married. Oh, I know you're not married. You've had 5 husbands. The guy you're currently shagging is someone else's husband. Now we know why you're at the well at noon. You don't get along with the other women, at least 5 of them. Or the one you're currently with, the ex, the husbands, you, the exes. I don't know how long this web gets. But you don't hang out with the other women in the morning or in the evening. You're a nooner. And he knows it. And he went there. And she has got eyes the size of saucers. And she tries to get all spiritual. Sir, the woman said, I can see that you're a prophet. Our fathers worshipped on this mountain, but you Jews claim the place where we must worship is in Jerusalem. What the heck? He's like, I know you don't have a husband. You've been married 5 times. The guy you're currently sleeping with is someone else's husband. We have a church. I've been to church. I know you guys go to church. Have you ever done that? Well, let's talk spiritual. Let's talk where church is. He's not playing that game. And Jesus said, believe me, woman, the time is coming when you will worship the Father, neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem. You Samaritans worship what you do not know. We worship what we do know, for salvation will come from the Jews. Yet a time is coming, and now has come, when true worshipers, underline, will worship the Father in spirit and truth, underline. For they are the kind of worshipers the Father seeks. God is spirit, and his worshipers must, circle, highlight, underline, worship in spirit and truth, underline. Don't play church, lady. Don't come and ask for some living water that fixes things. He goes, I know what's broken. And the sexual past that you have and what's currently going on is killing you. Well, we worship here. He goes, I'm not talking about going to church and singing songs at the Jordan. He goes, in fact, that's what's broken. Your God wants you to worship him in spirit and in truth. It's why you come to the Jordan. It's why you sing songs. It's why you try to get all amped up. And it doesn't really work. Because you're trying to worship God in spirit, but you're not being honest about who you are and what you're doing and what's going on. And he doesn't want your songs. He wants your soul. And if you can't come clean with him, he doesn't want you standing and singing. It's why you may get a buzz. You may get this experience. You may even get the Jesus fingers and a little tear in your eye. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. It happened to me at a U2 concert. happen to the entire crowd at the U2 concert. It's not necessarily spiritual. It's crowd euphoria. Happens every Sunday at a Green Bay Packers game at Lambeau Field. They cheer and raise hands better than any church I've been to. God says, I'm not talking about playing church. He knows what's broken and he knows how to fix it. And he goes, lady, I got to get it out. I want you to know that I know. You got to know that I know. And I know how to fix this. Man, you got to read the rest of itself. The disciples are going to come back. The lady's going to go into town, and she's at the end of the story. She's going to tell everybody her story to get them to come out and meet this guy. The very thing at the beginning of the chapter, she was afraid of being around people because she's got a past. She has a story. She's got heartbreak. She's got wounds. So she'll go to the well at noon where she doesn't have to deal with it. It's now the very thing at the end of this encounter she runs the town with and says, everyone, I want you to come meet a guy who knows my secret, who knows my lust, who knows my sexuality, who knows my wounds. And he's given me truth. No one ever told me. Chris, your God knows what's broken, and he's got the cure for it. He's got a water that you just won't have to thirst again. You're going to learn to like yourself again. Over time, you're going to love yourself because you're going to see yourself the way your dad sees you. It's just going to drip in. 1 John 1:9 says, if we confess our sins, God is faithful and just and will forgive us of our sins. If you've gone to church for more than 4 or 5 months, it's probably not a newsflash. Yeah, God forgives you if you pray. Read the rest of the verse. If we confess our sins, God is faithful. He's a just God. He will forgive us and cleanse us from any unrighteousness that has come with it. I grew up my entire life being preached at by guys about how bad I was, about how God didn't like me. God knew what I was doing. God saw every time I stood up, every time I sat down, every word that was in my mouth, every thought that I had, every motive, every desire in my heart. Now, I knew Chris's heart. I knew God didn't like me. And they just banged on the wooden pulpit and banged and preached forgiveness. You got to come get forgiveness. I asked forgiveness for the same frickin' sins 1,000 times. How many times does it take? Why do you have to ask again and again? Because our churches do a great job preaching forgiveness. They do a lousy job telling us, oh, and you can find freedom. He didn't lead that lady to forgiveness. He led that lady to freedom. It's out. It's in the open. It doesn't control you anymore. Is there something in your life that if everyone else in your row right now knew about, you probably wouldn't come back to the Jordan again? If there is, you don't control it. It's controlling you. Now, I'm not saying this is a place where you stand up and tell everyone your sin, because other people's sin is gossip, and they're just writing it down. That's a good one. Gonna remember that tonight. I'm saying, is there anything in your life that continually gives you guilt from what you did, or God forbid, what was done to you? See, we have an enemy that loves, and our choices are choices done against us and letting us know. We're the ones that are flawed. We're the ones that are broken. We're the ones that are unworthy. We're the ones that have done. And it's true, it's true, it's true, it's true. And that was the problem. Everything the guy would pound on and talk about sins, I'm like, I did it. No one ever read me the stories of Christ. No one took me through 1 John 1:9. Hey, Chris, stop praying for forgiveness. You got it. Start living in freedom. Grab that thing and daily say, God, thanks for this. Not that I did it or not that it was done to me, but thanks that in spite of that, I'm so stinking loved. In spite of that, I have a plan that's made uniquely for me. And when I find out what that is and walk in it, oh, I'm going to love it. I'm going to find out why I was wired and why I was made. And it's just going to work. God, thanks that in spite of this, I am loved. And I had to do that over and over and over and over until I started to walk in that freedom of going, he knows, I know. You know what? It's okay if other people know. This is part of my story. That's who I was. This is who I am. I wish that someone had told me, God knows the life that I need to live and how to get there. I wish that someone had told me God knows what's broken and he knows exactly how to fix it. And I'm not just talking forgiveness. He knows how to free you. Free you. And thirdly, probably the shortest one, but I got to say it, and I know you probably get pounded on a lot here. God knows exactly who you need to journey with. I wish someone would have told me the importance of that. I'm not talking your friends. I'm talking about marriage. Marriage is the most important decision you will ever make in your life outside of Christ. There's not even a close second. Marriage is more important than breathing. You get marriage wrong, there's no use in breathing. Seriously. You've probably seen it in your own homes. You've probably seen it in the friends or homes of your family and your loved ones, your friends. You live in a house where just hell's going on. Life is hell, and I don't care who you are. Man, I've seen this 26 years now being a pastor and counseling marriages and people. I see this daily in my life. Literally thousands of marriages. I've got 2 guys right now that bring home over $1 million a year. Take home, not gross, net. One of them has a play allowance of $15,000 a month. That's not family. That's not budget. He's allowed to spend on just gadgets, things he enjoys, whatever. 15 grand a month. When we go out to lunch, he buys. I don't even ask. I'm like, 15 grand, you're picking up the burger. Shut up. You know, I meet with both of them. They had some of the worst lives I've ever heard of. Why? The marriage is gone. Oh, the marriage has been gone. They're both at the pinnacle of success in both of their careers and what they do. They have people that line up just to be around them. And they hate who they are and where they are in life. Why? Marriage is gone. I don't care what you do outside the house. If the house is broken, you're not fulfilled. I've seen the opposite. I remember the conversation right out here by the big rock fountain. I remember a conversation we had months and months earlier, and I hadn't seen him since, so I just said, hey, how's things going? He goes, wow. Well, what did I tell you last? And I said, well, the company was moving out of California. You were staying here. They weren't taking you with them. You looked for work. It's been a while. You haven't found anything. He goes, it's been now going on 19 months. Hasn't found a great job. Pushing shopping carts. He goes, it's something. He goes, we lost the house. Did I tell you that? And I go, I didn't hear that. He goes, we moved in with our in-laws. My wife and I and our 3 kids moved into her folks' house. I go, how's that going? And he just looked at me. And I said, dumb question. I remember saying, how you doing? And this goofy grin got on his face. And I remember him saying, Chris, and I'll call her Jill. He goes, Chris, Jill and I are doing really good. He's also, life's not bad right now. There's a lot of people that have it a lot worse. I knew exactly what he meant by that. He's got a good marriage. He lost a home, he lost a job, he's living with in-laws in his 40s with 3 kids, but he's got a good marriage. The type of marriage you want to have 10 years from now and 20 years from now started yesterday. You understand that, right? By who you choose and what you do in that relationship, it started yesterday. That's not saying for some of you that have screwed up big time that there isn't a do-over, there isn't a reset button. But man, I wish someone would have implored in me, this God knows exactly who you need to journey with, and it's the most important decision you will ever make. This is the person that's going to have a joint share in your finances, in the direction, in raising kids, in your health, in what happens to you, in your support, in your value, in your fulfillment. It is crazy. And when you start playing around with it between the age of 18 and 24, or you start finding someone but all you're doing is fooling around, having sex. We're Christians, we don't have intercourse, so we just do blowjobs and give hand jobs. That's what we do. And you say, oh, well, that's Christian dating, and you expect God to bless this, but because you're physically involved with each other, you're experiencing Genesis 2:24. For this reason, man will leave his father and mother, cling to his wife, and the 2 of you become one flesh. And so physically, you're already sexually together, you become one flesh. So you're already welded together, and then you're asking for God to bless. Well, is this someone I should be with or not be with? And you're like, well, my heart's telling me, shut up. Your heart got you here. And you can't sense the will of God because you've got a relationship in disobedience, and you're asking God to bless it. And then 6 years from now, you're going to come into my office and say, well, we've been married for 3 years, but we can't do this any longer. And I don't have the heart to tell you, well, this conversation's 5 years too late. But we'll start with the pieces now and go, we'll see what we can do. You guys don't have kids, do you? Well, we got one. Well, fortunately, she's young enough not to really know her dad. So the holidays won't be too hard on her. And most kids like her are going to go different places for the holidays. So I wish someone would have told you between the age of 18 and 24. There is no decision you will make in life. Not your school, not your degree, not your grad program, not where you work, not how you invest, not where you live. None of those are going to come close to who am I choosing to be a partner. And that starts by who am I hanging around and who am I dating. And what are my standards? Because the moment you let him into your heart, you're going to let him into your life. And lastly, that one got a little heavy, didn't it? That was good. I got one. Woo! And lastly, I wish someone would have told me that God loved me way before I ever thought of him, and that God would never, ever, ever love me any more than he does right now. Because I grew up in a little church that said, you got to love God. You got to love God. You got to start serving God. Man, you got to love God. Got to sing to God. Got to praise God. Got to get your hands up. Got to worship God. Got to love God. Dude, I grew up in West Texas. Hung out with the family of a bunch of brothers. My old sister was the oldest, but she really wasn't around growing up. She got into a lot of cocaine and doing lines and stuff when I was kind of younger, elementary. Took off and did her life that way. And I was left with a bunch of brothers growing up in West Texas. Nothing but dirt bikes, shotguns, and rifles. BB guns were to shoot inside the house. Rifles, you could shoot inside the house as long as the barrel was out a window. That was Dad's rule. We grew up 20 miles outside the city in this little community, and we took the screens off our windows so we could shoot the shotgun and rifles. Mom would hear it go, boom, run into the door, open up, and I'm like, it was outside the window. Dad's rule. Every time a gopher popped up, we shot him. And a skunk came in, we killed anything that moved. Sorry, West Texas. I never loved anything or anybody. I didn't love my wife until our second year of marriage. Even 2.5 years of dating, I just knew I was a guy incapable of love. I had people that said they loved me. At times I'd say it back, but I knew I was lying. I never loved anything. I was incapable of loving. I'd hear people talk, oh, the moment I laid eyes on her, I knew that was the rest of my life. And I'm like, oh, yeah. And then you want me to love an invisible God. Well, I think I'm going to fall a little short on that one. 1 John 4, 7 through 10 says, we love God because he first, maybe I didn't quite know it the way I thought. We love God because he first loved us. Chris, you don't love a God you can't see. And you're not going to worship a God you haven't experienced. Chris, you just need to sit and start taking in and start understanding and fathoming how much this God loves you. In spite of who you are and what you've done, where you've come from. How much this God loves you. It took a while to penetrate a West Texas heart. It took a while for that to start changing some language, some sarcasm, the way I would just shred anybody in my life. Still working on some of that. Started to experience this little Southern California girl from Encinitas who was perpetually tan. Part of that Jewish skin. Long, flowing, rock star, movie star hair, these big almond eyes. Disney made a character, Jasmine, after her, and I was like, yeah. True story in my mind. And she started to love me. I really liked her. But the way she loved me started breaking down this understanding of allowing yourself to be loved. No one ever told me, hey, why don't you just stop trying to love God? You don't love a lot of things in your life, do you? Now, some of you are like, I love everything. I love butterflies, and I love the rainbow, and I love the morning and the evening. I love a cup of coffee. I love people. I love the mailman when he drops off. Well, you probably are good at loving God. That's great. I think there's a lot of us who just have been so wounded and hurt and grew up with such dysfunction that I never really experienced love and saw it, so it was a foreign concept to me. And I can't love an invisible God. I can't even love people that are around me. When's the last time you just crawled up into your Father's lap and just started to understand that in spite of who you are and what you've done, where you've come from or what's been done to you, He cannot, will not ever take His eyes off of you. He is deeply, passionately, intimately in love with you because you are quality crafted by Him. You are His. You haven't even experienced that yet. You haven't even gone there yet. And He's just waiting for that to drip in. Just calling, whispering, I got a plan for you that you're going to love. I know what's broken and I know how to fix it. I got a partner for you that's just going to rock your world, and it's going to be an amazing 40, 50, 60 years. And that's not being done in our country well, is it? Our way of doing dating and fooling around isn't leading to success. He goes, trust me with this one. Have patience. Be obedient sexually. Trust me. I'll bless you with this one. And before you ever try to love God, you've got to understand how much He loves you. I remember going to my parents' house for Christmas. My daughter Selah was about 3. And after we're done eating, Mom made her Jell-O. Man, her famous Jell-O. She's got a way of doing these green Jell-O and red Jell-O with like some sort of cream cheese in the middle, and then in the Jell-O, little things hang in between. I've always torn the Jell-O apart and I'm like, how do these things hang in there? Her Jell-O salad. I remember getting a big old glob of Jell-O and putting it on the little chair in front of Selah, and Selah looked at it and she goes, I don't want it, Dad. And it hit me. We've never given our kid Jell-O. What kind of parents has never served their kid? We just don't do Jell-O. I don't know why. Nothing against Jell-O. Not a Bible verse against Jell-O. We just don't do Jell-O. And I go, oh, Selah, it's called Jell-O. You're going to like it. And I don't like it, Daddy. I know you're going to like it. I promise you're going to like it. I don't like it. I say, just try it. She went to go touch it and like pick it up. And you know, you can't really pick up Jell-O. She's all, it's Jell-O. I took my little spoon and I hit it. Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, that's what Jell-O does. Kind of like Daddy's tummy. Blah, 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 blah. She's like, I don't, Dad. I go, Selah, I promise you. You're my little girl, man. I know everything about you. I know you better than you right now. You're going to laugh. I don't, Dad. And my mom's like, oh, she doesn't want to eat. She's going to eat Jell-O, Mom. It's cool. Come on, Selah, just try a little bit. I put it on a little spoon for her, and she picks up the spoon, and it falls off. She says, Dad, I don't want to eat Jell-O. And my mom's all, Christian, Mom, she's going to eat Jell-O, Mom. Just suck. Get it, suck it. Selah, I'm telling you, eat the Jell-O. You're going to like the Jell-O. Dad, I don't want to eat. Don't eat the Jell-O. Selah, you're going to like eat the Jell-O. I'm just trying to prove to you. I know you like Jell-O. Eat the Jell-O. No, I don't. Just try a little bit. See, Dad, suck it in. You don't even have to chew swallow. Swallow Jell-O. You don't even care. It's Jell-O. Just try a little bit. Squeeze it on. Put a little more spoon. Bleep, 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 bleep. Put it in your mouth. And how was that? And she didn't want to give in. But I put a little more in the spoon. I go, try this one. I went to go put the spoon. She pushed the spoon away and she grabbed the Jell-O. I would say, what do you think? And she looks up. I like Jell-O. Yes! Yes! Has it ever dawned on you that your God made you, created you, knows you as Father better than you know yourself, and He goes, you're gonna like my Jell-O. And you're all, oh, I don't think I want to go. No, I promise, you're gonna like this. Oh, I don't want to live this way. I like doing my relationship. I like doing mine. He goes, you will like Jell-O. And you're fighting it, and you're fighting it, and you're wrestling with a God that's trying to force you to say, This is going to be good for you. Shut up and eat it. Because you are quality crafted by a creator that says, I made you. You're going to love doing marriage my way. Oh, you're going to love a life obedient to me. You're going to love walking with me. You're going to love having peace, shalom from inner conflict, knowing that you are son or daughter, being in your right mind, having dignity, being clothed. A God that cares more about your reputation than his. Are you kidding me? No, I don't like Jell-O. I think of my way of doing it. Shut up. Get over your little peon-created brain. And in these last songs, say, Dad, where am I not doing Jell-O? Where am I doing life my way? Because I think I know what's best. You make a crappy God. I hate to break it to you. He's an awesome one. And he knows you. In spite of who you are and what you've done. He calls you son or daughter. Are you kidding me? He doesn't just want to forgive you. He wants you to walk in freedom from the stain and the wounds, how you're marred, and the stench of living in a jacked up world with jacked off people, and it's rubbed off on you. He goes, you're forgiven. But I want to set you free. Oh, I promise you, you're going to love freedom. Love freedom. Love freedom. Love freedom. Love freedom.